Hello student, I am myself Ranjana Patil. Now we already started the important chapter from 11th standard, that is the general organic chemistry. Now in today's session we are discussing saturated aliphatic hydrocarbon, that is alkanes. Now in the lecture number 1 we already discussed the history and importance of the organic compound. Then we consider the classification of the hydrocarbon as a saturated hydrocarbon and unsaturated hydrocarbon, and next we discuss the structural representation of the organic compound. Okay. Now in today's session we are discussing the important points, that is a saturated aliphatic hydrocarbons, that are alkanes. So first is classification of alkanes. Classification of alkanes. And then we are discussing the type of carbon atom, types of carbon atom in alkanes. So these two important topics nowadays we are discussing. So let us consider the classification of the alkanes. So alkanes are classified on the basis of the structure. So this classification is on the basis of structure. So on the basis of the structure, the alkanes are classified as a straight chain alkanes and branched chain alkanes. Branched chain alkanes. So what are the straight chain alkanes? So straight chain alkanes are the alkane which have the continuous chain of the carbon atom. Straight chain alkane have the continuous chain of carbon atom. Continuous chain of carbon atom. Second thing is that there is a no carbon which is attached to more than 2 carbon atom. There is a no carbon atom which is attached to more than 2 carbon atom. So this is second condition, the continuous chain of carbon, no carbon atom which is attached to the more than 2 carbon atom, and therefore they are represented as a N alkanes. N for normal, so they can be represented as a normal alkanes. Okay. So let us consider. So straight chain alkane are the alkane which has a continuous chain of the carbon atom. So there is no carbon which is attached to more than 2 carbon. This carbon is attached to 2. So like this way, no carbon is attached to more than 2 carbon. Again, such type of the alkanes are called as a N-alkanes. So let us consider the example. Suppose I consider an example for the hexane. Hexane, which is having the formula C6H14. So it has a 6 carbon. So let us consider the formula CH3, CH2. So when I write the structural formula of the N-hexane, there is a continuous chain of the 6 carbon. There is no carbon which is attached to more than 2. So therefore, now I write down hexane as a N-hexane, N for the normal. So continuous chain of the carbon atom, no carbon which is attached to more than 2 carbon. Okay. Suppose I consider pentane. So now this is the formula of the pentane. This is the structure of the pentane. Molecular formula of the pentane is C5H12. Now I write down this as a not a pentane, but I write it as a N-pentane. So it is a continuous chain of the carbon, no carbon which is attached to more than 2. Okay. So such type of the alkanes are called as a straight chain. Now let us consider the branched chain alkanes. So what happens for the branched chain alkanes? So branched chain alkanes are the alkane which have at least one carbon which is attached to attached to more than 2 carbon atom, which is attached to more than 2 carbon atom. There is at least one carbon which is attached to more than 2 carbon. In the last example, we consider continuous chain of the carbon atom. Okay. So here, at least one carbon which is attached to more than 2 carbon. Suppose I consider carbon on the second carbon which is attached to now 1, 2, 3. So this will be fulfill the condition of the branched chain alkane. Suppose I consider like this way. If I write this structure like this way, so there it is also called as a branched chain alkane because the carbon on the second which is attached to 1, 2, 3 and 4. This carbon is attached to 1, 2, 3. So like this way, both are the branched chain alkanes because they completed the condition that there is at least one carbon which is attached to more than 2 carbon. Therefore, branched chain alkanes can further classified as a isoalkanes and neoalkanes. Isoalkanes and neoalkanes. So what are isoalkanes? So isoalkanes are the compound in which there is a one CH3. CH3 is called as a methyl. There is at least one methyl group on the second carbon of the continuous chain. Like this. There is one methyl group on the second carbon of the continuous chain. It is called as a isoalkanes. Now I can write the complete formula. So if you write like this way, so it is called as a iso. So how many total number of the carbons are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So it is a 6 for hexane. So it is a isohexane. Suppose I consider the second example is like this way. Every time I write the formula, we are completing the carbon 4 valency. Okay. So now in this continuous chain, this 1, 2, 3 and 4. So the second carbon have a methyl group. Okay. So it is a iso. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So it is a 5 for pentane. So it is isopentane. Similarly, I consider so there is a 3 carbon continuous chain. There is a 1 methyl group on the second. There are a total 4 for the butane, and it has a this group is called as a iso group. So it is a isobutane. Okay. So what are isoalkanes? Isoalkanes are alkane in which there is a 1 methyl group on the second carbon of the continuous chain. Then they are called as a isoalkanes. So this is isohexane, isopentane and isobutane. Now let us consider neoalkanes. What are the neoalkanes? So neoalkanes are the alkane in which there is a 2 methyl group on the second carbon of the continuous chain. If there is a 2 methyl group, again CH3 are the methyl groups. If there are the 2 methyl group on the continuous chain of the carbon, they are called as a neoalkanes. Okay. Let us complete the formula. So this is a neoalkanes because it has a 2 methyl group. Total number of carbon are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. For the 7 heptane, so it is called as a neoheptane. So it is a neoheptane. Let us consider another example for the neo. So if I write like this way, so this is 1, 2, 3 and 4. So the 2 methyl group is either from left hand side or either from right hand side. So again, there are 2 methyl group on the second carbon. Okay. So this I use the prefix neo. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So it is a neohexane. So it is a neohexane. So if I write this like this way, it is a total number of the carbons are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it is a neopentane. Okay. So like this way, the branched chain alkane is of the two type, isoalkanes and neoalkanes. Isoalkanes have the one methyl group on the second carbon. Neoalkanes have two methyl group on the second carbon of the continuous chain. So like this way, the iso and neoalkanes can be represented in the branched chain alkanes. Now let us go for the next topic, that is the type of the carbon atom in the alkanes. So type of carbon atoms. In alkanes. So there are the four type of the carbon atom in the alkanes. First is a primary carbon atom. Secondary carbon atom. Tertiary carbon atom. And the last one is the quaternary carbon atom. The primary carbon atom is denoted also as a 10. Secondary carbon atom is denoted as a 20. Tertiary carbon as a 30 and quaternary carbon as a 40. So primary, secondary, tertiary 10, 20, 30 and 40. So what is the primary carbon atom? The primary carbon atom in which is attached to one more. The carbon which is attached to one more. Then that is called as a primary carbon atom. Let us consider example. If I consider again a propane. In propane, this carbon is attached to one more. So therefore, this is the primary carbon. This carbon is also attached to one more. So it is also a primary carbon atom. So when you consider primary carbon atom, you observe that in a primary carbon atom, this carbon whose 4 valency is completed by 3 hydrogen and 1 carbon. So suppose I consider butane. In this butane, this carbon has a 3 hydrogen and it attached to one more. So this is a primary carbon. This carbon is again attached to 3 hydrogen and 1 carbon. So it is also primary carbon atom. So you observe that primary carbon atoms are generally a terminal carbon atoms. They are called as 10. Now what are the secondary carbon atom? So secondary carbon atom, so it is attached to one more. This carbon is attached to one more. This carbon is attached to two more. It is a secondary. If it attached to 3 more, it is a tertiary. 3 more. And if it attached to 4 more, they are called as a quaternary. So when you consider example of the secondary carbon atom, so if I write a butane, if I write again butane, what happened in butane? It is a straight chain. So I say it is a N-butane. In N-butane, this last one, this is terminal carbons are the primary carbon. Now this carbon is attached to 2, so they are the secondary. This carbon is also attached to 2, so it is a secondary. So N-butane has a 2 type of the carbon, primary carbon and secondary. Suppose I consider example of isopentane. I can write the example of isopentane. It is iso because there is one methyl group on the second and there are a total 5 carbon. So it is a isopentane. Now let us consider the type of carbon atom in the isopentane. So this is a terminal, so it is a primary. This is a terminal, so it is a primary. This is a terminal, it is a primary because all are attached to one more. All are attached to one more. Now this carbon, it is attached to 2, so it is a secondary. Now this carbon is attached to 3, so this is a tertiary carbon atom. So we know the definition of the tertiary carbon atom. The carbon atom which is attached to 3 more are called as a tertiary. So isopentane has a 3 type of the carbon. Terminals are the primary and this one is the secondary and this one is a tertiary. Okay. So now let us consider for the quaternary carbon atom. So when you consider the quaternary carbon atom, let us consider the example of neo, that is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this example is a neohexane because there is a 2-methyl group on the second carbon of the continuous chain. So it is a neohexane. Total number of the carbons are the 6. So when you consider example of this, so this carbon is again primary, this carbon is a primary, this carbon is a primary, this carbon is a primary. Now this carbon is attached to 2, so it is a secondary. Now this carbon is attached to 1, 2, 3 and 4, so it is an example of the quaternary carbon atom because it is attached to 4 more. Okay, so like this way, in the N-iso and neo, these 4 type of the carbons are to be observed: primary carbon atom, secondary carbon atom and tertiary carbon atom. Let us consider one more example for this. Now try to classify the number of carbon atom in this example. So this carbon which is attached to 1 more, so primary. This carbon is attached to 1 more, primary. This carbon is attached to 1 more, primary. This carbon is attached to 4, so it is a quaternary, 4, 0. This attached to 2, it is a secondary. This attached to 3, so it is a tertiary. This is again primary. This attached to 2,